Arkansas Fall Camp just 11 days away. What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Razorbacks coming off of SEC Media Days, so there's a lot going on right now with Razorback football. They should be like testing and stuff, seeing how they did in the 8-week training cycle. We're going to talk about some of the things coming up and discuss other things. Take your questions as well. All that more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. So many ways to watch and listen to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure you're subscribed to the channel and set where it notifies you anytime we upload new videos. Give us a like, comment, all that stuff helps the algorithm, of course. Follow us on Facebook, where we have 109,000 Razorback fans joining us there. Follow me on X. I think I'm up to like 74,000. So a lot of different ways to check out our content, but we'd love if you checked out all of them. Also on Apple Podcasts, throw us a 5-star review. Let other people know what you think of the show. Certainly helps us there as well. All right, I'm going to start out by giving a shout out to J.J. Andrews, Arkansas commit, son of legendary Arkansas offensive lineman Sean Andrews, 6'6", 220-pound forward, as part of the Brad Bill elite team, and they won their second straight Peach Jam, and he was named the MVP. Over the course of 8 games of this Peach Jam, now keep in mind also these guys are playing 12 games in 11 days. Over the course of 8 games in the Peach Jam, he averaged 18.5 points, shot 47.1% from the floor, 73.2% from the foul line, averaged 5.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 2.1 steals while playing nearly 30 minutes per game. So a great accomplishment there for an in-state product and an Arkansas commit. He's in that 5-star range right now. This could actually boost him up to that. You know, they get pretty stingy about handing out 5 stars for basketball. Usually it's like lottery picks, somewhere around that range, guys who they think will be potentially lottery picks. So shout out to Scotty Scheffler, amazing at the Open, even though he's a Longhorn. That's the one thing I don't like about him. 16 starts. This has been EJS Hog on our board. 16 starts this year, 4 wins, including 2 majors, 13 top 10 finishes. Pretty impressive stuff from Scotty Scheffler. Get your questions in because it's just going to be me and you today. So we're going to take them all. Razorbacks obviously wrapped up SEC football media days on Thursday. They were the last team there, as you saw if you watched on TV. Pretty sparse crowd for the last day. I thought Sam Pittman did a fine enough job. I mean, it's the same thing that everybody does. It's, you know, everybody's team is bigger, faster, stronger, more experienced. They want non-transactional players that want to be Dogs or Razorbacks or Rebels or whatever it is going to be. Non-transactional players. Yeah. Everybody feels good about their team. Culture is better than ever. All that kind of stuff. Specifically on some of the things that Sam Pittman was talking about. Let's get to that. Let's continue our shout outs. Fernando Carmona was named to the 2nd team All-SEC. Devin Bell is a 3rd team, and Cam Ball is 3rd team. So third, you know, they do 3 teams, but there's some guys that you might say should have got some recognition. You could make an argument for Taylon Green, Xavier Sori, of course. You could make a very strong argument that he was snubbed on this list. But not many others. There's so many new faces out there. And as we talked about before, Arkansas doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. They just don't. They're never going to come off a average or subpar season where everybody goes, you know what? I got a feeling about the Razorbacks this year. Never going to happen. Happens for Texas A&M. Happens for Auburn. As you can see in this first place votes for Texas got 96, obviously coming off of a big year. They have Arch Manning. Georgia got 44. Alabama with 29, LSU with 20, South Carolina with 5. And that's your order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina. Arkansas all the way down at 14 below Vanderbilt, which got 2 votes by 2 Yahoos. 2 Yahoos out there voted Vanderbilt to win the SEC. Not that saying they can't have a good schedule, but they're not winning the SEC, and everybody knows it. So whoever did that, you're a buffoon, both of you. So Arkansas got no votes, as you would expect, and rightly so. Every once in a while, somebody pops in there and throws a vote to Arkansas, which is also buffoonery. But again, like I was saying, they're never going to get the benefit of the doubt that they could have a good season. It didn't happen in 95, didn't happen in 98, it didn't happen in 2002, it didn't happen in 2006, so on and so forth. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the storylines. Special teams. We'll start with that. They brought in Cam Shanks, obviously have a lot of high hopes for him. He's a preseason All-American for special teams, averaged more per return, had more yardage than anybody else, had 2 touchdowns on punt return. So they feel like they've got a guy there. They also return Ashton No, NGO, it's pronounced no, at long snapper. They return Devin Bale as the holder. They return is that it? That's it. They got Scott Starzik, who is rated anywhere from number 1 to 3. I think I've seen him as high as 10, actually. Kicker in the nation. Coles Kicking has him number 1 in the nation. I think on the 24/7 Sports Composite, he's number 3 nationally. So a lot of high hopes for him. He's got the leg. He's got the ability. It's just what happens when you're in Neyland Stadium, right? And the game is on the line. What's going on between the ears here? So they feel good about that. The thing with special teams is they've got to do better about making, boneheaded errors, and that's kind of going to be a theme with a lot of this stuff because Pittman feels like they're bigger, stronger, faster as a team, which a lot of people say. But if you are bigger, faster, stronger on offense and defense, you're going to be bigger, faster, stronger on special teams as well. So that should carry over to that because, you're going to be playing a lot of, backups and stuff like that. So he feels like they're going to be better on special teams. They just have to stop making mistakes. They have to stop making the wrong choice, whether to kick the ball, punt the ball, go for it, all those types of things. Too many times wrong on that. And, you're going to be wrong. I mean, like statistically, you should be wrong half the time, right? Well, to have a good season, you need the things to go in your favor. You need to get, you need to have that vibe. And maybe Arkansas is due to have some of those things because it certainly feels like they're below 500 on a lot of those choices. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody's got the stat. It just feels that way. GM Remy Cofield receives rave reviews from Sam Pittman. He was asked about Remy Cofield. I think the biggest benefit of having Remy Cofield is to be a buffer so Sam Pittman doesn't have to have that conversation. And he said as much at SEC Media Days. I've been saying it, so it's got to be true. Just not having to go, well, you want 150,000. We're thinking like 50,000 for you. Just don't think you're worth it. Like, how do you go from that conversation to having a relationship with the player that you had before? And as he said, once that relationship is damaged, there's no way to return it to its previous form. So he makes a lot of sense there. I agree with that completely. I think the biggest benefit of all of it is not having to have those conversations if you're Sam Pittman. Plain and simple. You don't have to have that talk. He talked a lot about revenue sharing also and how it should put them on a level playing field. We'll see. We'll see what people do with NIL if that still has such a heavy influence as it's had in the past. This year it does, obviously, because nothing's under review, but in the future it's going to be. Anything over $600 goes to the clearinghouse. Deloitte Accounting is part of that, and they will make sure that everything is fair market value, everything is legitimate. And so we'll see how that plays into it all. But Arkansas will have $20.5 million, 2.5 going to scholarships, or $2 million, something like that. They're going to end up with 18.5, I believe is the number, after, cutting off some of the top for scholarships. So they'll have some for scholarships, and the rest, a majority of that's going to football. 75% is going to football. That's not official, but that's what's going to happen. 15% to basketball, 5 to baseball, 5 to women's sports, something like that. So he feels like they'll be on a level playing field, and kind of made some points. Like, in 2021, they won 9 games, had a really fun season that year. There was a 3-game losing skid in the middle of it, but overall, really good season. The next year, NIL comes into play, and they start dipping. Next year, NIL's bigger, start dipping. Like, he kind of points to the NIL issue and said, they're not making any excuses for this year. Like, he feels good about the team. He thinks they've got a chance to do some good things, so on and so forth. But he did kind of said if I was going to make excuses, it would be for how NIL has impacted him in the past. And I don't disagree that NIL has played a role in Arkansas not being able to get certain guys or keep certain guys, and kind of discuss that, because so much of what you're talking about with players now is not just how to be a young man, like how to treat women, how to deal with going to classes, stuff like that. Now it's like how to be a young man in an adult world. I thought that was a great line and well put by him, because you have money now, you have finances, you have, people talking about buying houses and cars and investing and stuff like that, need advice on that kind of stuff. But they have those kind of conversations with them, and the family and stuff. And he said, it's not so bad when when a player wants a certain amount of money and you just like, it sucks to have that conversation. It's like, we just don't, well, I don't know about that. I don't know that you're worth that. And everybody's coming in with a figure, because they've been told somebody can get them this. So they've got to figure them out. They got a deal on the table already, even though technically you're not supposed to, but they do. He said what is the hardest thing is not when you don't think they're worth it. It's when you think they're worth it and you don't have it. It's a good point by him. So anyway, they should have better funds this year. I don't know, because there's so many things grandfathered in from the past. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But there's no room for excuses anyway this year. He's got to win. And I think he makes a good point about, like, if you think you're coming into the SEC and coaching 10 years, then you're a fool, because there's two guys that are doing that right now, and that's it. Kirby and Stoops. That's it. So you have to plan year to year, and that's what Arkansas has done. I don't think Pittman has really had a choice in to do that, because he's not a fresh hire. If you're a fresh hire, then maybe you can say we're going to really invest in the high school ranks and developing these guys and so on and so forth. Expect a variety of coverage from physical Arkansas corners this season. Arkansas has a lot of potential options at cornerback. They really do. Are they going to be good is a different question. Selman Bridges was very highly ranked, obviously, as a recruit, 119 prospect in the country last year. They seem to be putting him in every position possible to earn that starting job throughout the spring. They also did that with Jaheim Singletary. I don't know that really worked with Singletary. He never really lived up to that 5-star billing. He's still on the team, so maybe there's time, but hopefully that works out with Selman Bridges. And then you got Kenai Walker, who was at Oklahoma, starter at Oklahoma. Jordan Young, who was a starter at Cincinnati last year. Keyshawn DeVilla, who was the number 1 ranked junior college prospect in the country, a guy I really like. And you've got Julian Neal, who was a top-ranked transfer portal addition. So you got a lot of guys competing for 2 spots. And really, I feel like it's 1 spot. I feel like they're probably going to go with Selman Bridges at 1 spot. It's also a very tall group. It's a big group overall. Not everybody's big. Keyshawn DeVille is tall, but he's not heavy. He's light. But they feel like that's going to give them a lot of different options for variety. He feels like they'll play more zero coverage and probably bring the linebackers a lot. That's another thing that Pittman was talking about a good bit was he feels very good about the linebacker core. I do too. I think it's probably their best overall unit. Xavier Sori, Steven Dix, 2 veteran redshirt senior linebackers, both highly regarded players, both returning starters. Story started 13 games. Dix started 10. And then you got Bradley Shaw, who I would have loved to have seen Brad Spence in this group, but he's at Texas, obviously. But Bradley Shaw, to me, is a guy with a lot of potential, a lot of upside. They say he just stays in the film room, just has a real knack for football. Very highly recruited guy also. He was a 4-star recruit, 15th or 16th ranked linebacker in the country. And then, you start wondering about Harris from UCF and was it Waylon? Spacing on his name, from Utah State. They brought in a couple older guys. Is Wyatt Simmons ready as a redshirt freshman? Tavian Wallace as a true freshman. That scares me a little bit if he's an option. I think you hopefully redshirt him and rely on your older linebackers and hopefully stay healthy. So, what I noticed in the springs, they're doing different things to get 3 linebackers on the field. That can tell you that they're either really strong at linebacker or they're really weak at defensive end. Probably both. I think it's probably both things can be true at the same time. Wide receivers. Pittman feels good about the wide receivers. I don't know yet. I don't know. Like, I want to see a guy emerge. Like, I think it's more likely that you have one or two studs at wide receiver than you have like a room of them. And they kind of talk about them like it's all these guys are good. Um, I think that's more unlikely. I do think that Raylan Sharp is going to be a starter no matter what else happens. I think he starts in the slot. And then Omega Blake is a good bet to start. And then I think it's up in the air. Unfortunate on Ismail CC. He was probably one of the top three, you might say four, you could even say two wide receivers in the spring. Losing him, because he was very reliable. He got open. Didn't seem to like he would do a lot after the catch, but he got open and caught it when it was thrown to him. So losing him for the season, he's got ligaments and broken wrist. It's not good. Likely for the season. They didn't say officially, but likely he's out, I would assume. So losing him stinks. But I'm interested to see what Jaylen Brown brings to the table. Andy Jean is another one who transferred in late. So they've got a lot of guys there and a lot of guys that have caught a lot of passes. We talked about that a couple of shows ago, and I think that matters. It may not translate completely to the SEC, but guys that have caught that volume of passes, in competitive play, I think is notable. It's noteworthy. It's not going to translate 100% to the SEC, but it can partially. It tells me that they do a lot of the right things. I thought DJ on his 4th and 5 podcast, shout out DJ Williams, did a great job breaking down a couple of the wide receivers also with Anthony Lucas the other day. A lot of talk about Taylon Green. Is he going to take this massive leap forward? And as Pittman put it, what you look at with Bobby Petrino, everywhere he goes, year 2, the offense just goes, it gets outrageous. And you've got Taylon Green in his second year there as the starter. Hopefully stays healthy because he brings a different dynamic with his leg than maybe anybody in the SEC. He may be more versatile than any quarterback in the SEC, and that's including Lenore Sellers and anybody else who you want to put out there. When he's healthy, he can really, really run. The question is, can he go through his progressions? I think that having a more veteran offensive line, a better personnel group on offensive line. We had a guy comment the other day on some offensive line story I think I'd written. He said, I'm just not buying that the offensive line is better. And this is one reason I think it is. Your best offensive lineman on the team last year was Fernando Carmona. They brought a guy in Corey, I'm spacing on his name. Somebody help me on his name. Corey Robinson. They brought a guy in Corey Robinson who they think can play that position better than Fernando and allow him to move inside to what they feel is a more natural position for him. So to me, that says we think this guy is going to be a better left tackle than we had with Carmona last year, and we think Carmona is going to be more comfortable playing guard. So that's 2 spots that you would think are going to be better. All right, let's flip it to the other side. At right guard, you basically got I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a Marion Harris, Keyshawn Blackstock, and Kobe Branham all competing for that starting right guard spot. I think there's a good bet that Kobe Branham ends up winning the job. Kobe, who started in the bowl game, tore his pectoral in the spring, so he hasn't been able to do bench press and stuff. So maybe that sets him back enough to where he doesn't win it. But if Kobe Branham is good enough and he wins that job, what does that tell you? You got a guy that beat out 2 starters from last year, potentially. And regardless, one starter is getting beat out. And I think Shaq McCroy is going to end up winning the starting right tackle job. It could be a Marion Harris. I think it'll end up being Shaq McCroy. But to me, again, that tells you 2 starters, 2 guys that were basically unquestioned starters, are in a battle for one spot, basically. And maybe a Marion Harris battle for another spot. But neither of those guys could end up starting. Marion Harris might not start, and Keyshawn Blackstock might not start, who started last year. And then inside at Caden Kittler, Kittler is the first guy at center, which I'm going to say this. To me, if they'd have had somebody that they felt was another option at center, I don't think Amari Wiggins was that good. I think they probably would have looked at replacing Addison Nichols at center. I just don't think that they had anybody to do it, because the next point I'm going to make, and they brought in Caden Kittler, who's the only guy since Ricky Stromberg who started 2 seasons at center. He started at center last year and is going to start again. Everybody since Ricky Stromberg, it's been their first year at center. So you've got a guy that's played the position the previous year. I think that's definitely noteworthy. But also, I've made this point because I talk about, an option behind them, backup center. They didn't feel like they had anybody last year. I don't think that they had anybody, period, last year. I don't think that they had a single option who they felt they could put into a game as in SEC play on the offensive line. The only guy who you looked at that second group and said guy might be a future starter was Kobe Brenham, and he was a true freshman. That's the only guy on the backup offensive line. This year, I look at Bubba Craig. I think he could start one year. Kavian Browsard, I think he could start. In a pinch if they need Marcus Dumerville. He's a guy that started before. Was at LSU? Was it at Maryland? He's a guy that could come in. He's a senior, so he's not like a guy that you look at down the road, but he could be a guy. So, and then we talk about all the options at right guard. One of those guys is going to be a backup. Maybe two of those guys, I guess, could be a backup. That's all I'm saying. I look at the backup offensive line. That's why I think the offensive line will be better, plus what I saw in the spring. Brutal schedule could also present opportunity for Razorbacks. I always say, it's hard to make a great catch without a bad throw, and that's what Arkansas got with this schedule, is a bad throw. And I want to look at the schedule a little bit. Arkansas, I don't know if you guys know this, Arkansas is the only team in the SEC that starts on the road for its first two home games back-to-back seasons. The only team in the SEC, the last 2 years, they've sent them on the road. There are three teams that do it this year. It's Vanderbilt, Auburn, and Arkansas. Neither Auburn nor Vanderbilt did it last year, obviously. That's just tough. That's 2 years in a row, and 2 years where Sam Pittman's on the hottest of hot seats. You're going to send him on the road to open SEC play. That's just tough. Twice you do that. All four of Arkansas's first four games are in different venues. Fayetteville, then to Little Rock, then Oxford, Memphis, Fayetteville. I can't remember. Let me look real quick. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So you're in Fayetteville, which finally opening in Fayetteville. Then you're in Little Rock against Arkansas State. Then you're at Ole Miss. Then you're at Memphis before returning to Fayetteville again against Notre Dame. You don't play an SEC game in Fayetteville until October 18th against Texas A&M. So Arkansas screwed themselves a little bit with that Memphis game, playing that on the road against a Memphis team that won 11 games last year. Stupid to do that. But you don't play, again, an SEC game until October 18th in Fayetteville, which is just criminal. Last season, I believe it was October 21st before they played their first SEC game in Fayetteville. Just crazy. So in 2023, no, that was 2023. That was 2023 when Arkansas didn't play. So in 2023, so we know how it started the last 2 years, away. Even the Texas A&M game, Arkansas was technically Arkansas was the away team for that, even though it was at a neutral site, but they were the away team. In 2023, Arkansas started SEC play at LSU. Then was the home team against Texas A&M in Arlington. Then they went to Ole Miss, and then they went to Alabama. The first 4 games that Arkansas played in the SEC were away from home. What kind of BS is that? That is just ridiculous to give them that schedule. And, Arkansas is at fault playing that Arlington game as the home team. But the SEC also knew that, and they still gave them 2 road games after that. So that's in the SEC's mind, even if they just completely forgot that Arkansas plays at Arlington, they still gave them 3 of their first 4 SEC games on the road that year. And that's when they came back, October 21st. The fans have been dying for a home game. Please give us a home game. It's Mississippi State. And by the way, we're going to do that one at 11 a.m. So tough crap. Sorry. Arkansas lost that game 7-3. That's how you return home after all that wait. Yeah. Arkansas doesn't do itself any favors, but the SEC doesn't seem to help much either. we talked about the NIL stuff. Sam Pittman talked about the hot seat, and the pressure entering his 6th year with Arkansas. And the way he puts it is like, I think you feel pressure and you're nervous if you feel like you don't have a good team, but he feels like he has a good team and he feels like he has a good support staff. That was one of the best answers, I thought. The first question he gets fired at him after his opening monologue is, you got the lowest paid support staff in the SEC. You produce the lowest number of NFL talent in your state versus any other SEC state. And this guy was just talking about all the disadvantages he had. And Pittman goes, man. It was a pretty good answer. He goes, man, like you lay it all out there like that. So anyway, I thought that was a pretty good response by Pittman. He likes the tight end group. I'm not blown away with this tight end group. I like Rohan Jones. I do like him. I think that he has potential to have a really a season where like nobody really knows who he is, and by a few weeks in, everybody kind of knows. Kind of same thing with Mike Washington at running back. But Jones is, to me, probably not as good as Luke has. I bet he was dramatically cheaper, and I bet they probably got a couple other good players because they didn't have to pay Luke has what they would have. Not that it would have been great to keep Luke has. I'm just saying. Okay. Danny's got an interesting article, Danny West. I wanted to mention something with Danny, by the way. Danny has started a new company. He's doing like embroidering and stuff, like wood. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, started an engraving business last year and recently launched a website, adding more products this month as July comes to a 10. K-Dub's Workshop. He's got some pretty cool stuff, like a lot of plaques, like that you do with Buck, some laser engraving, stuff like that. Cool stuff. It's kcdubsworkshop.com. kcdubs DUBS workshop.com. Go check them out. Got some cool stuff on there. Like even stuff for like just about everything, not just for everything, Christmas ornaments to stuff for your kids' room. All kinds of cool stuff. So go check them out. All right. Should have Danny on back again next week. All right, let's see if we got any questions here. Go to your questions here in the comments. We got 41 comments rolling right now. Okay, Spoog 2025 says, Trey, why did you reach for the first down when you already had it? Was it greed or just over aggressiveness? So he's referring to our dynasty. I am 0-3 now. Even though I put up 546 yards of offense and only gave up 213 yards, I lost the last game. He opened the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown, which has not happened to me in a long time. I'll say that at all. And also later in the game, after I get a big stop, it's third down. I go to my check down. I got to get to the 40-yard line. I get to the 41, and my dude does this animation where he extends the ball out and it gets knocked out, scoop and score touchdown. Game's over. Ridiculous. Very frustrated with this 26th game, by the way. Thanks for bringing that up, Spoog. Pit Crew 31 says, why don't we recruit KC metro area more? I will say, like it used to be, Kansas City schools were so bad that they lost their accreditation. That's been a long time ago, but I remember that like being a thing. But like for some reason, Kansas City doesn't seem to produce a whole lot of talent in that state. But I remember at one point, like the schools were just really bad. That's from Pit Crew 31. Shark and Saw says, this may have been covered before, but why is the game against Alabama State at 3:15 p.m.? It's a horrible idea for late August in Arkansas due to the heat. We were forced into this, or did we choose it ourselves? If so, why? I think they chose it themselves. It's a terrible, terrible time to have a kickoff in September. Well, August 31st, August 30th. When is it? Something like that. It's a terrible, terrible time to have a kickoff. There's a lot of really bad decisions that Arkansas has made. And Hunter Yurchek has caught a lot of heat lately. Like, he doesn't seem to have anybody on his side right now. And maybe that'll change for him. But a lot of these decisions, like, are made by Jeff Long. A lot of these decisions. When they expand, first of all, stadium looks great overall. I'm not a big fan of the gap. That's just my OCD, I think. Like, I need symmetry, and seeing that big gap there just kind of annoys me. I think it would have been better to, like, if you're going to do, like, maybe center it and then have two gaps versus having one big gap like that. So that bugs me, first of all. Secondly, you put the nicest seating that you have, the best seats, the best suites, the newest of the new. You put it in one of the worst spots that you could possibly put it in the north end zone, because you're facing south and that sun is just blasting these people. So these people paying all this money for those nice seats, and they're just blasted in the face the whole game. Not smart. It's not. And Arkansas doesn't get a lot of night games. You can look at the schedule at all the flex time stuff, not getting a lot of night games. So what they should have done, first of all, is not put the gap there, because I don't like it. Not put the gap there. It's still fine. It still looks nice. It's still enclosed, all that stuff. But don't put the gap there, number one. Number two, put regular seats there, put chair backs there and stuff, fine. But spend that money, like, redoing, on the west stands, redoing those suites. Those are like the oldest, really. And those are the best seats. Those are the best ones. So redo that area. Kick me and the media out of the press box, as much as I hate to say that. Move us to the side, put the nice seating right there, redo all of those suites, and add more luxury seating there. Don't put it in the end zone where they're facing this. But yeah, 3:15 kickoff for all those people. That's fun. And, if you're in the east stands, unless you're like, you probably need to be probably row 35 or so and up to avoid that sun. Obviously, it's going to change throughout the game, but just talking about just at kickoff. Good question, Sharkensaw. Story of the year. This is the name of our poster here. Been with us for 79 months. I should mention that too. We've got, guys, we're $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports coming up into fall camp, right? I mean, Spog Hog's only been with us 4 months. He has posted 974 times in 4 months. Pit Crew's been with us 57 months. Sharkensaw 16 months. Story of the year has been with us 79 months. He's only posted 204 times. He's been with us 79 months. If Arkansas is going to exceed Vegas expectations, Bet Saracen has Arkansas at 5.5 wins this year. What's the most important game on the schedule for them to win? Exceed, for me, would be better than 6-6. 6-6 would probably exceed it, but let's take a look at it. So there's a really important stretch right here, starting October 18th. Texas A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State. For all the brutality that the SEC and Arkansas have laid upon themselves at the start of the schedule, that 3-game stretch is very important. Very important. You need to win those 3. Texas A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State. Those 3 need to be won. Those teams can be beaten, especially in Fayetteville. So win those 3. Open the season, beat Alabama A&M, beat Arkansas State. Memphis at Memphis is not going to be a pushover, people, but you got to win that one. That's 6. That gets you to 6. All right. After that, beat Missouri. Beat Missouri. Damn it. It's like beat them. Finally, beat them. You get them in Fayetteville. It's going to be 5 to 7 p.m. It's going to be a night game. Beat Missouri in Fayetteville. That gets you to 7. All right. And then, anything else at Ole Miss, nobody's going to pick Arkansas to win at Ole Miss. Nobody's going to pick them to win at Tennessee. Nobody's going to pick them to win at LSU. And nobody's certainly going to pick them to win at Texas. But those 7, Missouri, Mississippi State, Auburn, Texas A&M, Memphis, Arkansas State, Alabama A&M, that gets you to 7. Okay? That's it. That is easier said. Not all these teams are going to be like, it's not going to just pan out the way everybody thinks. At the end of the day, there's going to be one team that's undefeated. Just one. Most of the teams that make it to the college football playoff are going to have a couple of losses, maybe 3 even, a couple. But like nobody's going to pick them to lose those games. Somebody on that schedule is going to have a complete and utter meltdown. One of those teams are going to have a disaster of a season. Hopefully it's not Arkansas. But one of those teams, somebody between Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State, LSU, Texas, and Missouri, somebody is going to wet the bed. Even though they're predicted to be better than Arkansas, somebody's going to have an awful, awful year. Lose their quarterback early, don't have any running backs because of injuries, have some kind of turmoil, something crazy pop up, some coach say something that's off-putting to somebody. He goes on social media, just tears the team apart, something like that. Those are the kind of storylines we're going to see. I don't know who. I just know it's going to happen because it does every single year. Heinz Solo, been with us 71 months, 1,843 posts on our board. Just playfully thinking, if you had to guess, what is the average points the offense scores per game and what's the average points the defense gives up? Well, let's see. Let's check out some stats from last year. All right, scoring offense last year. Arkansas put up 30.9 points per game. That was 6th in the SEC, so a pretty good number. Mississippi, Ole Miss, led them with 38.6. Tennessee was at 35.7. Alabama 33.8. Texas at 33. Georgia at 31.5. Arkansas at 30.9. Not bad. The worst team was Kentucky at 20.6. So if the offense is going to be better than it was last year, although I still think the schedule is a little tougher. But again, like I said, things are going to happen to where things, teams might not be as good as you think. Let's give Arkansas 33 points a game. Let's put them at 4th in the SEC. Okay, how about that? 33 points a game. Total defense. Total defense last year, Arkansas was 13th in the SEC, 376.1 yards allowed. Number 1 was Texas at 283.4. Tennessee was second at 293.2, and then everybody is 300 plus after that. The worst team was Mississippi State, 456.4 yards per game. I think Arkansas can be a little bit better on defense, but I think they're also going to be worse at the same time, if that makes sense. I don't know how it does, but so let's keep them at 13th. Say slightly better offense, maybe a little worse defense. Maybe they don't give up quite as many yards. The thing that I have a problem with saying that is I have a concern with the defensive line, with the depth, defensive end particularly. I really like Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson. And Deke Adams too. I really think that those are good coaches on defense. I just wonder about the personnel. And I can't stop thinking about the Ole Miss game, how many yards they gave up to Ole Miss in Fayetteville. It was so disappointing. So we'll keep them at 376 on defense, and we'll bump them up to 33 points per game. I just did points per game. Did you ask for points per game or did you ask for yardage? You asked for points allowed per game. Scoring defense. Okay, let's go there. Arkansas was 15th with 25. Arkansas was 15th with 25 points per game allowed on defense. Mississippi State was last at 34.1, so over 9 points per game allowed more. When you look at number 1, Ole Miss at 14.4, Texas at 15.3, Tennessee at 16.1. So I'm willing to say, it's pretty close with when you get to about 7 through 15, you're looking at a difference of 4.4 points per game. Not a whole lot of difference, really. You spread it out there over the season, that's several touchdowns, but not that big of a difference. So, I could see Arkansas maybe doing 23, maybe moving up to 12th or 13th, something like that. It's hard for me to say that because I also feel like the defense is going to be worse, but I look at it and they were pretty low down last year. So I don't know. All right. What else we got? How long are we gone? 40 minutes? Chad Razorback says, Trey, why does the SEC hate Arkansas so much? It's obvious that they do not care about Arkansas. I mean, it's obvious. You can look at the schedule every year, the way things set up. It seems like Arkansas is always going to end up with a team in the SEC. Like when they're peaking, it just seems to happen that way. 3 years in a row, we've opened SEC play on the road. 3 years in a row, we don't play our third home game until after week 6 or 7. I talked about it a lot, Chad, who's been with us, by the way, 20 months, 1,907 posts. I talked about it a lot, and you're right. I mean, it's obvious that the SEC, like even the COVID year, well, who should we give Arkansas? Let's give them Georgia and Florida. What about that? Let's give them the 2 toughest teams in the East. They were the 2 best teams in the Eastern Division that year. Like that's a screw job. That's bad. It's like it's almost blatant how bad it is. Spog 2025 says, because of the travel, it's been covered and it's not this year thing. What? He's responding to somebody. Oh. NEA Hog 12, who's been with us 57 months, 805 posts. How much would it surprise you if Jaylen Brown is wide receiver number 1? It wouldn't surprise me dramatically. I mean, he started 2 games for Florida State last year. It was described to me as very up and down. His season was very up and down. His spring apparently was exceptional. He had a really good spring. And then he was arrested on a possession charge, which was a 3rd-degree felony. I'm not sure what has happened with that. I need to check in on that and see what's going on there. But he was a number 71 ranked prospect in the entire country when he committed to LSU his first year. He's from Miami, left LSU, transferred to Florida State, got kicked off Florida State, landed at Arkansas. Hopefully this will be a good landing spot for him and things work out. Because they need, if he could be a go-to type of receiver, maybe. Pittman mentioned him at SEC Media Days, so. Junkyard says a case can be made for letting go of Sam prior to last year would have been warranted. Are you and DW okay that he was given another year after finishing 7-6, beating Texas Tech in the bowl game as an underdogs? It's a good question. I said I'm on record saying at the beginning of the year that I felt like Sam needed to win 8 games, at least 7 games regular season, and they only won 6. To me, that wasn't good enough. There's also the idea of revenue sharing coming into play. I mean, they just fired 18 people at the University of Arkansas because they had to make way for revenue. So you're talking about firing your coach, firing the entire staff, all the buyouts associated with that, buyouts with hiring somebody else. You're going to have to pay a buyout if they're coaching at another school. That's a lot of money, especially if you're trying to figure out a way to carve out. So I understand why they did it. I think if we were talking about most other years before this revenue sharing model and stuff came about, I think he probably would have been let go. I mean, I think probably so. So it doesn't matter what I think necessarily on that. Sam Pittman is the coach at Arkansas. I've laid out what I think he needs to do to have a good year and to I don't think that 6-6 again this year is going to satisfy Razorback fans. I mean, the worst thing you can have is this toxic kind of relationship with your fans. And from what I see with Hunter Yurachek made what he probably thought was just an innocent little post on social media on X about the lawyers for the NIL settlement stuff set to get like $70 million. Do you think these guys are going to share any of that revenue with the student athletes? And I mean, he just got roasted. I mean, there's probably 40 responses and none of them are pretty. None of them. And I know, social media crowd can be harder. That's what they used to say. That's social media. It's not real. It's just social media crowd. Who's not on social media? Are you on social media? You may say you don't want to be, or you're trying to cut back or something, but you're on social media. You're social media crowd. Everybody's social media crowd. This isn't 2007. It's 2025. Everybody is. So, they need to win. like the level of toxicity. I mean, you used to almost see coaches get fired due to the level of toxicity that was coming. Like, do I want to have toxicity or do I want to pay millions of dollars and instill some hope again? And they would choose hope, especially if you're an AD, because you're gauged on the success of the football program. Bottom line, like basketball and all that stuff's fine, yeah, but people can say all they want that this is a basketball state now or this is a baseball state. I'm sorry, it's not. Football is 74% of the revenue. I can tell in my own articles, I put something out about football or I put in one of these videos something about football versus anything else, you're going to watch more football. You just are. You're going to read more about football. Even in this state that you feel right now, this state of apathy, I don't even, read this anymore. I don't care as much anymore. You're still going to come back around. And it's just, you feel taken advantage of, I'm sure. You have to. It's like a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship with the University of Arkansas. Keep getting abused as a fan, but they know that you're going to keep coming back. So I'm really hoping, I've said this before, and I think Paul Feinbaum said it best, but every sentence can't just start with, I like Sam Pittman, but he needs to win. And I hope he does. I like Sam. I'm pulling for him. Maybe people say I shouldn't in the situation I'm in. I'm still going to do my job. I'm still going to have expectations and ask, why or how those expectations are going to be reached, and, ask him questions about how he did it when he does, and give him praise when he does it, and, be critical when he doesn't. And that doesn't change the way that I feel about Sam. It doesn't mean I like asking questions like that. I hope he wins. I've never gone into a year thinking, man, if Arkansas could just lose a bunch, never. I think that's a loser mentality. Like, if you think like that, you are a loser. I'm sorry, you are. You can be frustrated with the team if you want, and you can want change, sure. But hoping they lose, no. I cannot get behind that kind of mentality. And if anybody that I hope does well, it's Sam Pittman. That's the way it is. I really would love for this thing to come full circle for Bobby Petrino to have a really good year in his return to Arkansas, set things right for Sam Pittman. Whatever he wants to do. The guy wants to retire in the state of Arkansas and live here the rest of his life with his wife, Jamie. That's what he wants. He wants to put Arkansas on stable footing, get the program right where it needs to be, and go out. And I'm not saying he'll do it even this year. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what he wants. That's how he wants to finish his career, going out well-perceived, well-liked by Arkansas people for what he did for the program, retire in this state, live in Hot Springs. That's what he wants to do long-term. And I hope he gets to do it. And I hope Bobby Petrino's, gets this offense to a level that we haven't seen since 2010, 2011. That's what I hope. And I hope Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson do a great job. And Deke Adams, too. I hope that defensive coordinator staff. That's what I hope. No matter what it comes down to when we're talking about Razorback football and the lack of success or the success that they have, that's what I really want for the program. I want success. I want the people that work up at the university to keep their jobs, the people that work around there. Like, when you fire a head coach, there's so much turnover throughout the whole organization. They got a lot of good people up there. They really do. That's my opinion, if you're asking for it, if that was even the question. Junkyard Hog, 196 months. 196 months with us. 66,957 posts this guy's been with us. Appreciate you, Junk. TJ Football 14, who's been with us for 66 months, 2,330 posts. Will the media access be the same this year? Also, when will the official fall camp schedule be released? I put out a pretty good baseline for what I think will be. Let me see if I can find it. Come on, populate to the top of Google search. It did. That's what I want. Right up at the top. So I put this out July 2nd. So it's not an official camp schedule. It's just based on what we've seen in the past. And you can't really go off last year so much because last year the season started on Thursday. This year it starts on Saturday. So combining what we know from last year and, associating that with what we saw in 2023, look for Arkansas to hold 25 practices over 29 days. That's when they can start. 29 days of practices, 30 days out from the first game. So that would put Arkansas on August 1st with the kickoff on August 30th. So what it's going to look like, if this is how it is, which I think it will be, start on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, off on Wednesday. So 5 days of practice, off on Wednesday. I believe that will allow them to come back on Thursday in full pads. And then you go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You take that Sunday off. And then from there on, you're Monday through Saturday, Sundays off. All the way up until the Friday of kickoff, Friday of, the walkthrough, and then Saturday kickoff. So 29 practices, 29 days, 25 practices. That's how I'd expect it. I think that they will give us viewing time somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes every day during fall camp. It's different than spring football, where we got access to all of practice, which I'm 100% for, obviously. Like, they should give us practice. Everybody should be like mandated to open spring practices across the SEC, really across the country, but across the SEC. You should mandate that you open spring practices to the media. Fall camp, I can understand. I wish that they would open it up more, but I also understand that nobody else is doing that, and we're talking about preparing for upcoming games, preparing for the season. So what I would expect is 20 to 30 minutes of open practice viewing time through fall camp, which ends technically the first day of classes is the 18th. So it's going to end on the 16th, that Saturday. They'll have a scrimmage, I'm sure. They'll be off Sunday. Classes start the 18th. So that's technically the end of fall camp. At that point, I would expect them to go to entirely closed practices, which is what they did last year. So I think they're going to close practices. I can't say that I blame them in this landscape, because that's what everybody else is doing. And, we're out there, talking about who's missing practices. All that stuff's done. Who's missing practices and stuff. You can't even report on that kind of stuff if you want to continue to go to practices. People say stuff all the time like, you're scared to talk bad about the Hogs because you're worried about losing your media credentials. They are not going to revoke my media credentials because I have a negative opinion of some of the things that they've done. If I'm a cancer or something, maybe, like if I'm out to get them, maybe, but like if I'm fairly reporting, and asking legitimate questions, which I've always done, nobody's going to revoke. Like that would be a bad look on them. They took him out because they didn't like his line of questioning. Can you believe that? Like, that'd be an awful look. What they will do is, if you can't follow their pretty simple rules overall of not reporting on injuries, players missing, if you don't try to circumvent them to interview players or contact players and stuff like that, to have interviews with, like those kind of things, that's gonna piss them off. Like, go through them for interviews and don't report on injuries. That's pretty much it. Like, all this, it's so ridiculous. I see it every year. Worried about losing his media credentials. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're just spewing nothingness. They don't care about that. They don't care that you're, giving them a hard time. As long as you're not actively out there trying, and by that I mean trying to, espionage type of something, which nobody's really doing. But I guess it happened. They happened to that dude at when Petrino was at Louisville. There was some reporter for some other team, like the color guy out for their radio show, allegedly, I guess, I don't know if this is all true, giving play sheets for the team to the opponent. That kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about. All right. There's a 7-day acclimatization period to put on pads. So they'll do those first 5 practices, take the next day off, and I think they can come back in pads. I think it's just that 7th day they can come back in pads. Okay. Let's see if we got any more questions. We're going to wrap the show up today. Appreciate all you guys being with me today. That's all of those questions. See if I got anything. I might have to scroll through these a little bit. Noah Williams says he's got me playing in playing. While I take the Hogs to the Natty and CFB. What a glorious day. Got you playing while I take the Hogs to the Natty. Playing EA Sports College. Lane Kite says, hey, Trey, love the show. Super high on Charlie Collins last year. Wondering if you had any thoughts on potential breakout season for Charlie. I want to see what he had in the 8-week training cycle. Like, did he have a great 8 weeks? Because he needed to get stronger physically. They're just very inexperienced at defensive end, past Quincy Rhodes and maybe Justice Boone. They're just inexperienced. So there's a lot to figure out there. Hey, I wanted to mention this real quick, but we've got some deals done, okay, for advertising. We're going to get away from like just, all the interspersed YouTube ads and all that stuff throughout the show and stuff. So we are going to, things like, this ticker right down here, presented by such and such, a couple of other ideas that we have working on, but we are still looking to fill a couple of ad spots. So if you are interested in advertising on HawgSports Live, get your message heard to the highest rated and most reviewed podcast about Arkansas, email your inquiries to TYESPNArkansas@gmail.com. That's TYESPNArkansas@gmail.com, and let them know you're interested in advertising with HawgSports Live. Again, HawgSports Live is the #1 podcast in Arkansas. It's the highest rated on Apple Podcast. It is the most reviewed. So not only is it the highest rated, but the most reviews also out of any podcast covering Arkansas. So certainly proud of that distinction, and it's a great way to get your message out there to other people. Ask our friends at Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go has been a long time advertiser with us, and we certainly have had a good relationship. So we're looking for more. We're looking for more advertisers. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate all the questions, all of our longtime subscribers, all those listening to us for free. You know what to do. Notification bell after you hit subscribe. Follow us on Facebook. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment. Thumbs up. Take a moment and thumbs up the video if you haven't done so. Just a moment. We'd really appreciate that. I wouldn't say all that stuff if they didn't say that helps, but it actually does help to say it. So I'm saying it now. Give us a hand. Help us out. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we will catch you next time if I can find the outro. Boom.